The crunch of tires on gravel shattered Dr. Amara Jennings' peaceful afternoon. In seconds, two Westbridge patrol cars boxed her in, turning the quiet park into a cage. The officers who approached didn't see a respected surgeon taking a well-deserved break. They saw a black woman in an expensive suit, and in their minds that made her a suspect. The lead officer, Keegan, stepped out of his car with a familiar, predatory swagger. He sized her up, and his mind was already made up. Nice suit, he thought, his eyes crawling over her designer clothes and handbag. Where does someone like her get the money for that? Probably selling something she shouldn't be. His partner Parrish hung back, his hand already hovering over the butt of his gun. "You got some business here?" Keegan's voice was gravel, stripped of any courtesy. "Is there an issue, officers?" Amara's tone was measured and calm, a stark contrast to the aggression radiating from the two men. Keegan ignored her question entirely. "This park is for residents. You don't look like a resident." "I just finished a board meeting at the Institute," she replied, her back straightening. "I'm taking a moment before my drive home." "So you don't live in one of these mansions?" Parrish chimed in, gesturing to the luxury homes surrounding them. The accusation was obvious. "No. Why is that relevant?" Amara's voice remained even. Keegan took a step forward, invading her personal space. "We got a call. Suspicious person watching the houses. Description fits you perfectly," he said, letting the insult hang in the air. Amara looked around the quiet, empty park. She was the only person there. "I assure you, I am not breaking any laws." A smirk twisted Keegan's lips. "We'll be the judge of that. Let me see some ID." She gave a slight, deliberate nod, her hand moving slowly toward her purse. "Of course, it's right here in—" "Freeze!" The shout ripped through the afternoon quiet. "Show me your hands, now!" Amara's hand froze inches from her bag. "Officer, I was just getting my ID for you." "On your feet, nice and slow." "For what reason?" Her voice was quiet, but it carried the authority of a woman who was used to being in charge. "Ma'am, stand up," Keegan commanded through clenched teeth. She rose with practiced control, her hands out and her palms open. Keegan gestured for her to turn around. As she did, she saw the public humiliation begin. A man jogging slowed to a gawking stare. A mother quickly pulled her young child away from the scene. "You're not under arrest," Keegan grunted from behind her. "Just detained while we figure this out." Before she could respond, she heard the cold ratchet of handcuffs. The steel bit into her wrist, followed by a second click that locked her hands behind her back. "Officer, you are making a grave mistake," she said, her voice turning to ice. "You were acting suspicious," Parrish muttered defensively. "That's all we need." Amara turned her head just enough to fix him with a withering glare. "Minding my own business is suspicious?" She received only silence. Taking a breath, she made one last attempt. "I need to make a phone call." The officers exchanged a look. Keegan shrugged, amused. "Go ahead, on speaker." With her hands cuffed, she used a voice command. "Call Elias." The phone barely rang once. "Amara." The voice that answered was deep, steady, and instantly focused. For the first time, her composure trembled. "Dad, Talk to me. Where are you?" "Donnelly Park," she said, her voice regaining its strength. "I'm being detained. A resident reported a suspicious person." A tense beat of silence passed. "Are you harmed?" "No, just humiliated." She saw Keegan and Parrish shift their weight, a flicker of uncertainty in their eyes. "I'm on my way," he said, his tone hardening into something absolute. "Put your phone on speaker and hold it up for them." Amara looked at Keegan. "He wants to speak with you." The officer just rolled his eyes and gave a dismissive wave. Suddenly, a voice erupted from the small speaker, a voice layered with immense, unquestionable authority. "This is Deputy Director Elias Jennings of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. You are currently detaining my daughter without cause, and this call is being recorded for a federal review." The color drained from Keegan's face. It was the physical sensation of a career ending, the cold, sick feeling of a long drop on a short rope. Parrish looked like he was about to throw up. The smugness of 2 minutes ago was a distant memory, replaced by the terror of a man who just realized he'd aimed his weapon at the sun. The voice from the phone was devoid of emotion. My arrival is imminent. The handcuffs will be removed from my daughter immediately. You will not speak to her again until I am present. We are finished here. The line clicked dead. A horrifying silence filled the park. The Bureau, Parrish finally whispered, his voice trembling. You couldn't have mentioned your father works for the Bureau? Amara looked straight through him, her eyes burning with cold fire. And if I had, officer, would you have treated me like a human being then? They had no reply, but the court of public opinion was now in session. Across the lawn, a man was filming. A teenage girl with pink hair and a pierced eyebrow was live streaming, her phone pointed directly at the officers. No way, she said to her phone screen. They put this lady in cuffs for chilling on a bench? Yo, that is messed up. She walked closer. What was the crime, officer? Enjoying the sunshine too aggressively? You guys are a joke. As if summoned by the chaos, a third cruiser tore into the lot. Captain Atherton burst from the driver's side, his face a thundercloud. He saw the cuffs, his worthless officers, and the growing crowd of citizen journalists. Keegan, explain this circus to me. Now. Sir, it was a 911 call. She matched the description. Give me the probable cause, Atherton hissed. Word for word. Keegan's gaze fell to the gravel. Black female, expensive clothes, alone on a park bench. Atherton looked like he'd been slapped. He turned to Dr. Jennings, taking in the steel on her wrists and the defiant dignity in her posture. And for that, you put her in handcuffs? She was reaching for her purse, Captain. Atherton's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. Was she armed? Did she threaten you? Did she even raise her voice? No, sir, but get them off her. Get those cuffs off of her now, or I'll have them on you next. Keegan fumbled with the key, his hands shaking so badly it took 2 tries to unlock the cuffs. Amara rubbed her wrists, never breaking eye contact with the disgraced officer. Just then, a black Suburban, the kind that appears in motorcades, pulled silently to the curb. The man who emerged moved with a stillness that was more intimidating than any show of force. Elias Jennings radiated an aura of absolute control. He didn't need a uniform to command the park. His presence was the authority. He ignored the officers completely and went straight to his daughter. Amara, are you all right? I'm fine, Dad. His eyes fell to the red marks blooming on her skin. The calm in his face was instantly replaced by something far colder. He turned, and Captain Atherton suddenly looked like a rookie on his first day. You're the commanding officer? Elias's voice was quiet, yet it carried across the entire park. I am. Captain Atherton. Captain, you will provide my office with all recordings related to this incident. The 911 call, body cams, dash cams, dispatch logs, everything. A team from the Department of Justice will be in your office by morning. Atherton could only nod. Yes, sir. Elias picked up his daughter's things from the bench. He then turned his full attention to Keegan, who visibly flinched. You didn't see a decorated surgeon today. You saw a black woman in a nice suit and your mind filled in the rest with poison? Your badge doesn't give you the right to be a bigot, officer. It gives you a sacred responsibility not to be. You failed. Sir, I promise you, this situation will be handled. Atherton interjected weakly. Elias cut him off with a look. Don't talk to me about handling it, Captain. Talk to me about accountability. We are far past apologies. He put a hand on his daughter's shoulder. Let's go home, Amara. As they walked to the Suburban, a constellation of cell phone cameras tracked their every move. Before getting into the vehicle, Elias Jennings paused and turned, his voice calm yet carrying across the entire park with chilling clarity. To the individual in the pearl-white Infiniti QX80 who made the initial report, he said, his eyes scanning the windows of the nearby mansions. Filing a false report with law enforcement, especially one motivated by bias, is a serious offense. We will find you. The Suburban pulled away, leaving a smoking crater in the careers of 2 police officers. By the time they hit the main road, the story was already a wildfire. The teenager's live stream, now edited entitled Cops Arrest Surgeon, her FBI Deputy Director, Father Responds, was exploding. The hashtags on Justice for Dr. Jennings and on FBI intervention were trending nationally. Inside the quiet sanctuary of the truck, Amara finally let out a long, shuddering breath. First, I was just incandescent with rage, she said. her voice a raw whisper. Then it was the shame of it all, being paraded like a criminal. Now, Dad? She shook her head. Now I'm just so tired. He reached over and took her hand, his grip firm and steady. Rest then, Amara, he said, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. I'll handle the rest. Her phone was a constant buzz of notifications, news alerts, messages from colleagues, and a text from the chairman of the board at Holloway that just said, "The world is watching. We stand with you. Give them hell." The video had become a symbol. On every news channel, the scene from Donnelly Park played on a loop. Keegan's arrogant smirk, the cold glint of steel on a black surgeon's wrists, and the sudden, stunning arrival of consequence. A legal analyst shook his head on screen. This was never about a mistake. It was about a mindset. This is a textbook case of racial profiling meeting an immovable object, and the fallout is going to be immense. Her phone rang. It was the hospital's PR director. Amara, the entire board is behind you. We are ready to issue a statement condemning the Westbridge PD. Amara thought of every person who looked just like her, who had faced a man like Keegan without an FBI deputy director on speed dial. Not yet, Helen, she said, her voice like steel. This isn't just my story to tell. The next day, Captain Atherton held a press conference. Sweating under the hot lights, he delivered a masterclass in bureaucratic cowardice, stumbling through a hollow script about a full internal review and his officers being placed on administrative leave. The country didn't buy a word of it. That afternoon, Elias held his own press conference. There was no podium, just the front lawn of their home, Amara at his side, and a wall of cameras. My daughter, Dr. Amara Jennings, was handcuffed in a public park for the crime of existing while black, Elias began. The person who called 911 didn't see a citizen. They saw a stereotype. The officers who responded didn't see a person to protect. They saw a problem to contain. He paused, looking at his daughter, then back at the sea of microphones. The only reason she went home with me and not to a cell is because of my position at the Bureau. That is not justice. That is influence. The system failed her. I was her failsafe. No citizen should ever need one. The reporters were utterly silent. So let me be clear, he added, his voice hardening. We are not interested in a quiet settlement. We demand two things: the immediate termination of officers Keegan and Parrish, and a federal investigation into the training and practices of the Westbridge Police Department. Then Amara stepped forward. I have dedicated my life to this community, to healing its children, she said, her voice powerful and clear. Yesterday, none of that mattered. In the eyes of those officers, I was a threat to be neutralized. That has to end. The true reckoning came the next morning. Officer Keegan walked into Captain Atherton's office with a defiant chip on his shoulder, expecting a union-mandated suspension at worst. Atherton didn't ask him to sit. The internal review is a formality, Keegan. The deputy director of the FBI has personally referred your case to the Department of Justice for civil rights violations. You are a federal problem now. He slid a single sheet of paper across the desk. This is your resignation. It is your only way out that doesn't end with you in a federal courtroom. Your choice. Keegan's arrogance finally shattered. The color drained from his face as he stared at the document that erased his entire career. Your badge and weapon, too, Atherton said, his voice devoid of sympathy. On my desk. Now. With a shaking hand, Keegan unclipped his badge. The sound of it scraping across the polished wood was deafeningly final. His service weapon hit the desk with a heavy, pathetic thud. Stripped of his authority, he was just a man whose life was over. His partner, Parrish, was buried alive in the department's basement, permanently reassigned to cataloging evidence from cold cases, a career entombed in cardboard boxes. And the anonymous caller in the pearl-white Infiniti QX80? Their name, address, and a recording of their panicked 911 call were leaked online. They were now the most infamous resident in Westbridge, their home a new landmark for public scorn, with a news van permanently parked across the street. The city council promised reform, but the verdict was already in. It hadn't been delivered by a court or a committee. It had been delivered by a family that refused to be broken.